Welcome back. So that can be very controversial, this idea of walkers and jumpers and whether or not we should be putting children in positions that they're not quite ready for. And sometimes that means also restricting them by putting them into bouncy seats. When do we want to put them in assisted sitting devices? And when do we want to just wait until they're able to do it for themselves? And that's a delicate balance of pushing and putting people in positions where they're not quite ready for, which can cause harm to their physical development, or holding them back and so that they're actually not developing in a systematic way. And so there are just so many nuances that come into that, and that's a conversation. And this is a course where we are all experienced practitioners, and we understand that putting children in sitting positions so that they can eat is very helpful, and we don't want them to fall over and tip out of chairs. So we do have chairs with bumpers on them to keep them from tipping out, and I think that's an important distinction to make, is to ensure that we are supporting a child's development. We're not pushing, we're just supporting them from where they are in that moment, and it's done with intention and an understanding of the consequences. So let's talk a little bit now about The Blessing of the Skinned Knee. It's a wonderful book that talks about the importance of allowing children to take risks and fall down. And I gave the example earlier about the yoga and my inability to keep balance and to fall over, and that gave me compassion for children who are working on their balance and tipping over. So I think it's also harkening back to that understanding of what we know about physical development in ourselves and our self-esteem, and how great it feels to be able to overcome a frustration, and it builds resilience and grit. So inside The Blessing of the Skinned Knee, it gives a list of reasons why we want to allow children to fall down and to not always be successful. And one is it builds resilience. We're not always going to be successful at everything we try in life. And when we're younger, if we have these little tiny, quote, failures, it's not really a failure, but if we have these upsets and inability to accomplish something, it builds that resilience, that try again. The Little Engine That Could is a wonderful book that talks about this. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. It can improve creativity. It improves creativity because if you can't do it one way, maybe you can do it another way. And as early years practitioners, we can ask them, do you think we can maybe do this another way because you're not able to do it this way? And it will get those creative problem solving skills coming up. It can improve motor skills as they refine that movement, that practicing for balance. It improves problem solving, going back to that creative thinking. How can I get this done? I really want to. It also gives a greater understanding of their abilities. There's a saying that I like to use called ski within your own limits. If you're a skier, you go to a ski resort and it says know your limits and ski within them, because you don't want to put yourself into a situation that is dangerous. Having adults there to be mindful and just be a presence in case they're getting a little bit too close to the edge, and you can offer them possible consequences of, oh, what do you think will happen when you jump off of that? There's no cushion there. That could hurt your body. Let's put a cushion underneath, or you can say, this is just really too high for you to jump from. I cannot let you do that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about risky play and how to support that and what that looks like in a couple of more slides. And we also, with The Blessing of the Skinned Knee, and allowing children to recognize the need for risk. We want to encourage children to take risks. It's exciting to do something that we may not necessarily do. And then when we're able to accomplish that, then we can get self-confidence, and it can create self-confidence, it can boost self-confidence. It can also foster curiosity of, oh, can I do this? How can I do this safely? It increases, of course, balance and coordination and the ability to move the body. It has effects on the brain. With that excitement comes an effect on the brain and that sense of elation and building self-confidence. It also helps organize the brain in the way that the body moves. It creates emotional regulation when you're able to overcome something even when you're nervous. A explanation that I've been given, or a definition of what it means to be brave, is being brave is to do something even when you're afraid. And so let's be brave when we do this. When I was teaching swim lessons, it was one of the things that I would constantly talk to children about. I understand you're afraid. I understand this is scary. I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you. I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you, and you can be brave. You can do this even though you're afraid. It also fosters a sense of independence, children being able to go up and down the stairs. Taking a group of children up and down stairs can be so nerve-wracking. However, once they're able to master that and they're able to get up and down the stairs independently, it creates a lot of independence for them and for the early years practitioner. And it supports physical development, and it allows for an understanding of risk development and risk assessment, like what is safe and what isn't safe. So let's look a little bit more about that risk. Risk it all. This is a picture of rock climbing. To me, this looks terrifying. I would say get down, that's not safe. But I also understand that for this person, this isn't risky for them. This is what they know. They know how to manage this. They know how to manage their feelings. They know what to do with their body to keep their body safe because they're practiced on it. I don't think they went up to doing a free climb bouldering just by jumping up on a high boulder. I'm sure it was little by little that they practiced these skills to be able to climb this way. The 21 benefits of risky play. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that means to have the 21 benefits of risky play. That I'm going to go through some, and then there's going to be a discussion board for other people to kind of chime in on what they believe should and should not be allowed when it comes to risky play. This is what I came up with. The chance to succeed or fail. It also can do teamwork if you have more than one person coming together. Going back to the rock climbing, oftentimes rock climbers will lead climb, and there's a rope up at the top, and then they're all linked together so the person doesn't fall. It creates counterbalance. Or you can have a belayer where somebody's actually holding the rope for you. And so that does create teamwork in working together. It recognizes areas for improvement when it comes to balance. If they're on something and they're going to fall off of it, then if it's tall enough, then if it's too tall, they're not going to want to ever try again. If it's too low, then they're not going to develop that skill because there isn't a negative consequence, because it's not scary to fall off something so low. So when it's right there in that sweet spot in the middle, then it's a little bit scary. So they're holding their body a little bit more still, and they're a little bit more focused on that. So they're recognizing the ability for improvement. And coping with stress. Oh, I feel very nervous. I happen to be terrified of heights. It's not something I would do. And I know that stress inside of my body when I have to climb higher, it is something that I'm able to regulate with breathing, with talking myself through this. And as an early years practitioner, we can support children just as I was doing with these swim lessons. You can do that with children in the early years environment. I'm here for you. I'll be right here for you. You can do this. You are brave. You got this. And that becomes the child's internal dialogue when they're trying to do something difficult. Without risky play, a child could become very risk averse. If that balance beam is too high, they're not going to want to try again, or they become an adrenaline junkie where they're looking for that high of falling down. So providing that sweet spot of risky play. It can form a positive attitude. I can do this. I've got this. Social interactions will happen inside of risky play. They will figure things out. They will put things together, and they will talk about their accomplishments, and that will encourage some other children to be able to try. It helps understanding your environment. If you're moving around the playground, you can understand that the monkey bars might be slippery, and that is slippery. Why is it slippery? Because when the dew comes in the morning, it puts a little bit of moisture on it, and I'm not able to grip something that is metal. So that's understanding of the environment. Communication skills happen during risky play. When we see children jumping and climbing as a group together, they have conversations with each other. And it looks like I have understanding the environment twice on here, and communication. So it doesn't look like I prepared my slides quite right. So maybe that's because it's supposed to be another really important, I'm supposed to reiterate this, understand the environment and communication. Talking about experiences, that goes back to that communication aspect. It helps develop motor skills and recognizing areas for improvement. It's actually healthy to engage in risky play. People who have their heart rates go up and down and they are able to cope with stress lead longer, healthier lives. It can be fun. It can improve your mental health, decision making. Again, going back to that resilience, experiencing a little bit of fear then helps the fear factor be okay a little bit later in life when something else happens. You know that you're going to be okay. It's preparation for life. And because life isn't without risk, but also it's building on top of skills that you may need later. Not entirely certain what rock climbing does for later on skills, but in early years, if we have them going across balance beams and it seems like it's a little risky, or they are standing on top of a stool and they're kind of leaning over a sink, being able to lean over a sink. There are times when I'm in a classroom where I have to lean over a child to get to a sink and wash my hands, and I'm able to keep my balance. So that is definitely a life skill, being able to go up and down stairs. Some people would see that as risky. Standing on a stool to reach up to something, someone would see that as risky. That's a preparation for life. If you don't grow to be, over 6 feet tall, which I don't know how many centimeters that is, sorry. If you don't grow to be, very tall, you may have to step on a step stool to be able to get things out of an upper cabinet, or climb onto the cabinet to get things from an upper shelf. It is part of what we do in our lives, and it's exciting and it's fun. It experiences exhilaration, which is just a really fun part of being alive. How we can support this in an early years environment. We can support it by the way we set up our classrooms. In the younger years, it's providing opportunities of different textures and different surfaces to climb over, and having a climbing structure inside of the environment, remembering that Pickler triangle. We can also have freedom within limits. We can set boundaries that we can do this inside the classroom, or we can do this outside in the garden. We do not climb on things, as in the older years, we do not climb on furniture. And so that is a boundary, and learning those gentle boundaries of things that you can do and you cannot do. That climbing, you can do that out in the garden. We're not going to climb in chairs here. We can support this by having circle time. Within our circle time activities, we can do fine motor, we can do finger play, which helps develop that it helps support motor development. We can also introduce inside of circle time exercise sequences or yoga. And music and movement songs can be fine motor or they can be gross motor. I know that within the community that I'm in, the song Sleeping Bunnies and Goldfishes is very popular, and I try to add in the fine motor skills when it comes to, I like to use the Goldfishes one, and then, because when we're talking about let's go swimming and I'm using my hands this way, let's go swimming, and when wash your hair, wash your beard, wash your toes, that incorporates also understanding body parts and language and following directions. So being able to put both of those in there, and going from being down on the floor, standing up and hopping up and down, that is all within inside of Sleeping Bunnies, which can be very fun. There are so many different music and movement songs. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes is another one that can be very simple. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands is another one. So there's so many music and movement songs for early years environment. I encourage you to have a huge repertoire of them, because it's very, very helpful for what I call crowd control. Creating obstacle courses in the garden area is a way that we can support this idea of motor development and allowing for risky play. So at the end of this, you'll find in your resources is a exercise sequence that I often use. It's called the Big Big Exercise. And that is something that you can go through. You can change the cadence to how it supports you. So you'll be able to find that in the resources section if you don't have one of your own, and if you don't have access to being able to learn a yoga sequence. This is a really good one. The Big Big Exercise, it is also developed to be able to understand where a child is in their developmental milestones. The ability to stand up, raise your hands over your head, and then also cross the midline. So, and understanding left from right, left to the window, right to the door. However, if your door is not to the right, then you have to do left to the window, and then you're pointing this direction, and right to the door. pointing the opposite direction. So hopefully you can get it crossed over, but it doesn't necessarily always cross over. Or you can position yourself in the room so that they are crossing the midline for that. It also encourages balancing, turning, and then going from sitting and then going all the way down into a squatted position to then sitting in a firm position, which is the legs folded underneath of the body. Just being mindful that their legs don't slip into the W, that they sit that way, and then they put their feet out in front of them at the end. I hope you found all of this really helpful and gave you the tools with the big exercise and thinking about motor development and the importance of that and how that can all come together with music and movement, and having that be a part of the everyday environment. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.